Jack Kirby.
Who art in heaven.
Stan Lee, be thy name.
Our kingdom come, Games will be done.
On Earth, as it is in comics.
Give us this day our weekly pull.
And forgive our top tens.
As we forgive those who top 10 against us.
Lead us not into speculation.
And deliver us from FOMO. Hey, put it down. Put it down.
For comics are our kingdom.
Forever and ever. Excelsior.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.
Welcome, comic book community, to the official kickoff of the 2026 Comic Book Community Awards. We've got a little bit to get through tonight. We are basically going to review all of the schedule information and reveal the categories for this year's awards. We did tweak the categories a little bit based on some feedback from the community after last year's awards. So we want to present those. And then in 2 weeks, on July 4th, we'll kick off the actual opening of the nominations. We do have some changes to the nomination ballot, which we'll review as well tonight. And so we'll kind of get into it pretty quickly because there is a good amount of information to get through. And one other thing to mention right away is that our website this year, we actually have the .com address. So cbcawards.com will be the official spot for updated information, nominations, and finalist voting once we get to that. The cbcawards.org, which we have used in the past, will be kind of decommissioned over the next couple of weeks. So we'll just officially be on the cbcawards.com. So we've updated, stickers and our logo to reflect that. So just as a top reminder, cbcawards.com this year and going forward. When I first kicked off the awards 6 years ago, cbcawards.com wasn't available, and it has since become available, and we've snatched it up, and we'll be using that kind of going forward. So appreciate everybody who's here already tonight. See a bunch of people in the chat. We'll say a quick hello. Christina, Matt, hope you're doing well. Got to see Matt recently at Heroes Con. Lots of HeroCon videos and hauls flooding YouTube these days, coming out of the big con weekend last weekend. Gesture Average Geeks, Dave, Chunko, good evening. Jason's here. I actually sent something off to Jason from Heroes Con. He's going to be working on for me. Up and Adam, Alex is here. I have Comic Issues, JSS Brooklyn. Appreciate everybody being here. And obviously, if you're catching the replay, certainly if there's any questions tonight, please drop them in the chat. I'll try to get to them. And then, the idea was to kind of make these announcements 2 weeks ahead of nominations open. So if there's any questions or concerns, or if we need to maybe tweak something, we do have a little bit of time. So, the idea is to continue the feedback from the community to just make the event as best as possible. So, but let's get right into it. Like I said, cbcawards.com this year, and I will publish all of the category updates right after I finish the live stream. So you'll be able to even go check out the website and see all the information if you don't want to watch the replay, if you're not watching it live. But sponsors, I wanted to highlight our sponsors. Links for each of their channels or Instagram are right on the website, as well as in the description of this video tonight. But Johnny's Comic Stuff, Gesture Average Geeks, Uncanny Derek, and SideQuest Comics, thank you so much. sponsors of the award so far. We are looking to add additional sponsors, and sponsorship really helps support the awards and cover the cost of the award trophies and shipping and all of those things. So helps defer the cost of the award. So, and if you can't do that, totally understand. The biggest thing you can do is help spread the word about the event. Share it on a live stream or in one of your pre-recorded videos. Just help spread the word. Every year we add, new channels to the mix that maybe weren't aware of the awards last year. So we just continue to, word of mouth to help spread the word about the awards. And yeah, like I said, website will be updated later this evening with everything that we talk about tonight. So let's look at the nomination period and basically the schedule for this year's awards. Based on feedback, we've shortened the nomination period and the voting period to make it more concise, more urgent to get your nominations in. And really, from my point of view, the nominations are most important because any channel in the community can be nominated. And so we want to try to drive as many nominations as possible. Finalist voting is easy. It's multiple choice. Once the finalists are set, it's, you kind of pick your favorite or, your friends or whatever the case may be when you're voting. But, who doesn't like a multiple choice test, right? It's easy to do, right? You just kind of pick your favorite. But nominations, where you actually have to put in a little work and think about who you want to nominate, where people fit in what categories. It's so important that we get more nominations this year than we did last, so that we can make sure that we capture all of the great channels that are here on YouTube. So we're kicking off in 2 weeks. Nominations will run from July 4th to Saturday, August 8th. And then the finalist voting will be from August 22nd to September 19th. And then we're actually doing announcing the winners even earlier this year, October 3rd, the first Saturday of October. And that'll kind of clear the way for the other things that happen at the end of the year in the community, some fundraising events. And then we kind of get into the holidays and things like that. So the idea is to kind of build some excitement, wrap up the awards in a shorter period of time. So it's not such a long period of time to go from being nominated to being a finalist to being announced the winner. So that's the idea behind that. And that was really feedback from the community. And I like the idea. It shortens the window that I'm, fully engaged and working on the awards, and kind of frees me up at the end of the year to, enjoy some time with the family and holidays and things like that. So sponsorships we mentioned, and please, check out our sponsors if you're unfamiliar with the 4 that we have so far. And then, sponsorships and sponsors we'll highlight on Instagram. And when we do any live streams associated with the awards, we'll certainly shout them out, highlight them, drop their links, things like that to help, get those channels recognized for their sponsorship. So, we're going to get right into it. We did make some changes to some of the categories this year. I think they'll be very familiar. I mean, we didn't make any like wholesale changes this year, but we did bring back a category that we did have and got rid of last year. And you'll see it with the first one. So it's we tweaked the title a little bit, but it's really Community Hidden Gem. And in my mind is a channel that maybe is a very good channel, but is not being, recognized by others in the community for whatever reason. Maybe they thumbnails, they're just not coming up in search, things like that. But really a channel that is under 250 subscribers, but should have more, right? So just think of it, when we hear it in the community, people say, criminally undersubbed channels that, they produce really great content, but not a lot of people are watching. So we want to try to highlight a channel like that, and multiple channels really, to get them recognized within the awards and maybe gain some attention and some momentum for their channel going forward. So that's category number 1. Next up, we have our first of the tiers, the emerging channel tier. So fewer than 500 subs. And we have 3 categories. It's best comic book show, which is really, an ongoing pre-recorded, series. It could be, it could be interviews. It could be really whatever you deem best comic book show. I think the biggest criteria there that it's pre-recorded. It's not a live stream, because we'll see what some of the other categories. There's plenty of live stream opportunities for channels, and typically when a channel is first starting out, they typically are not going live as often. Although that might not be the case with some newer channels. A lot of newer channels are jumping into lives pretty quickly. But so for this, under 500, we have, like I said, best comic book show. We have best entertaining or informative content. Think of that as somebody who's doing a deep dive into a storyline or a history, analytics of comics or the industry, or maybe, there's historical information. We know who those, we've seen those type of videos and those channels that do that kind of really informative type of content. So, and then we have our best new channel or creator for channels or creators launched within the past year. And again, under 500 subs. So, best new channel, again, another channels that we want to, new channels to YouTube that we want to highlight and recognize, and who are doing really good stuff in their first year on YouTube. That's really the thought behind there. Let's see if there's any, just making sure there's no questions. So yeah, so we're going to get very repetitive. What we did this year is basically take these three categories and just put them in the tiers. So tier 2 is up and coming channels between 500 and 999 subs. And again, it's the same three categories: best comic book show, best entertaining or informative content, and then instead of new channel, we have best live stream. So again, the best live stream could be a single, live stream. Maybe maybe it's a panel and they're discussing some topics within the, comic book world, or maybe it's an ongoing. Maybe it's a show that it does interviews. That has, guests or whatever it may be. And so we wanted to capture, and, some of the biggest feedback we receive every year is about making sure we have kind of an even playing field for channels in certain categories, so that, we don't pit a smaller channel up against a larger channel as far as subscriber numbers. So this is why we've added the different tiers. And you'll see this will be repeated several times. So now we go from 500 to 999 to 1,000 to 2,000. So if we open it up a little bit. So tier 3, established channel tier. Again, same three categories: best comic book show, best entertaining or informative content, and then best live stream. So a little repetitive, but it again, it puts some bumpers on the subscriber numbers so that we can have an even, hopefully, an even playing field when we get to the finalist. That's the idea. And so, and as subscriber numbers grow, we've kind of widened the tiers a little bit, because if we kept them at 500, we could, it would be basically all of the award categories would just be these three categories. And so we widen them as we get larger. So now you see the tier 4, the breakout channel tier, 2,001 to 3,500 subscribers. And again, the same three categories. Let me just double check, see if we've got, yes. And that's really, that's the idea. I mean, that's, we want to get channels recognized, and channels, maybe that, like I said, that are undersubbed for whatever the reason be, but are producing great content. We want to get them, recognized and out in front of a wider audience. And tier 5, right? The major channel tier from 3,501 subs to 5,000. Again, the same three categories: best comic book show, best entertaining or informative content, and then best live stream. So we have it one more time. Tier 6, the influencer channel tier for 5 sub channels that have 5,001 subscribers or above. And again, the same 3 categories. So this should be, a very, clear cut. We have these bumpers for as far as the subscriber numbers. And so we could hopefully have some competitive, nominations and then finalist votes for these 3 categories. And really people always ask every year, well, what happens if I'm 900, what if I'm 980 subs today, but by the finalist, I'm at, well over 1,000. It's really the sub count at the beginning of the nomination period. So as of July 4th, wherever your sub number is, if you're in, a certain tier, you will stay there. And so I spot check that as nominations come in. I'm reviewing them, and then I'm looking at the sub numbers to make sure that they end up in the right bucket at the end. So it's really where you are at the beginning of the nomination period will determine what bucket you fall in. And that'll make a little bit more sense when we go over the nomination ballot, how to fill that out. We've made some changes there to hopefully streamline and not have people that community members that nominate not have to put in a ton of work for the nominations. We really tried to streamline that because we really want to try to bring in as many nominations as possible. I mean, that's really the key. So now we're going into the open tier categories, really no subscriber counts, needed. There's no requirement here. And very similar to the categories we had last year, biggest channel supporter. This is recognizing an outstanding Blue Wrench fan or overall community supporter, non-creator who hasn't produced their own content on YouTube in the past year. So just a clarification there, we really want to recognize a non-creator. We have so many great creators that produce content, and this is a single category for somebody who doesn't, but is really, again, the big supporter of the community. And so we want to have a single category that recognizes, those Blue Wrenches, those mods, those fans. I can think of a number of people who don't produce their own content, but support the community in so many different ways, whether it's just, commenting, showing up, being there at live streams. So, and that's a category that we've had for several years now. So this is a category that the next one is a category we've had, but we've kind of tweaked the name a little bit. Most distinctive personal trademark. This is one of my favorite categories because it's just a fun category, but we changed the name a little bit, right? So it's celebrating that memorable visual trademark. Maybe it's the hands, right? Comic Journey, where are you? Distinctive hands, mustache, facial hair, hairstyle, right? And I know there's been some feedback from the community of removing this category, but this is one that stays there because I want it in there. It's one of my favorite because it's such just a fun category, and it really doesn't have to do with anything with comic books and YouTube. And so, and there's been some funny, some good winners, not funny, I shouldn't say funny, but there have been some great winners of this category over the years. And it always seems to bring out the competitiveness within this category, right? The people that are being nominated and ultimately become finalists are, I mean, hey, whatever works for you, whatever gets you nominated. And then our favorite community artist, right? Honoring an amateur artist who has not been professionally published, right? And so we know we have so many great artists within the community. There's so many great art shows, drawing shows that we see. We have got community members that do sketch covers and sketch cards and just so much great, artwork that we want to recognize, those artists within the community. Next, again, these are the open tiers. So best short form content award for exceptional shorts or reels, right? We've seen a lot of that here on YouTube, with shorts, people really establishing and growing their channels with short form content. So we want to recognize that. Best comic book or omnibus review, recognizing a channel that consistently reviews comic books and or omnibuses. We see it all the time. There's a number of great channels that review comic books and the content, the stories, and it's a great way for you to get an understanding of the story without actually having maybe to buy the book. I know I have done reviews in the past, and people comment that you're saving me $4 or $5 because I can just get the review from you and figure out if I really want to read it or not. So best comic book or omnibus review. Best statue or toy review unboxing. So we do have a number of channels that have comic related statues or toys, and so we're recognizing a channel that's dedicated to reviewing toys, unboxing toys, statues. That category is pretty straightforward. And a category, again, both those categories, review and unboxing, have been categories that we've had for some time now. Now we get into best cleaning, pressing, or comic restoration content, awarded to a channel that showcases effective techniques for cleaning, pressing, or restoration comic books. It was mentioned, one of the feedback, some of the feedback from last year was maybe to break these out into different categories, maybe have best cleaning, and maybe cleaning and pressing as one, and then maybe restoration as a separate one. But I honestly don't know if and there are a number of channels that do this, and I've seen a number of channels on Instagram or handles on Instagram that do this type of work, but I'm not sure if we could support multiple categories in this, and we would have to then take away a category somewhere else. So we left this intact this year, and we'll move forward with that, and always evaluate it every year to see if we need to break that out. The next is best speculation comic book content, the Keep Specking Award. This is what it is. It's celebrating excellence in comic book speculation content, right? We have a number of channels that, top 10, the hot list, speculation books that, you should be picking up now because they're inexpensive. So we want to recognize that speculation, section of the community. So, I think that one is best, pretty self-explanatory as well. Best tour video. And like I said, you can, see a ton of Heroes Con tour videos in the past week. But think of that, right? Best recognizing an outstanding tour content featuring, Comic Cons, local comic shops, or, your setup, your nerd cave, your room, your PC, whatever it may be. And so number of great channels that do a lot of content that are going to a lot of different shows, a lot of different cons. So again, that one is pretty straightforward. And then we have Comic Book Community Builder Award. And this is really honoring, different than the community supporter. I think of this, this one is really a creator or a channel who fosters engagement, interaction, and growth within the community. I think there's a number of channels that do that, right? Have open panels, open discussions, talk about things within the community, shout other channels out, highlight other channels, help other channels. And so we want to recognize somebody who's really going above and beyond, who's supporting the community and others in the community to help help them grow, even, just beyond their own channel. And so, and again, that's a category that we've had for several years. And then, believe it or not, our final is the Comic Book Community Hall of Fame. So recognizing a channel with 5 or more years of presence on YouTube. So really somebody who's been in the comic book community for a long time. And you say, well, 5 years isn't very long. There are a lot of channels that don't make it to 5 years. There's a lot of channels that will make it to 3 years, right? There's a lot of channels that, for whatever reason, stop producing content after a period of time. So having consistent, content producing, for over 5 years I think is an accomplishment. And we do have a number of channels that are well beyond that, 7, 10, 12, 15 years that have been doing comic book content. So we really want to recognize those, I wouldn't say, I'd say older, but more established channels that have been doing it for, 5+ years. And, you may be surprised at some of the channels that could fall into that category that have had, longevity here on YouTube. So, those are the categories. So yeah, like I said, I will post these up. I do want to go over the nomination ballot because we did make some changes, but those are the categories. So 30 categories again this year. And I'll have all of the information on the website as soon as I finish up the live stream here, we'll get that published. And let's take a look at the, let me remove that and let me share, and we'll take a look at the nomination ballot. Just make sure I got the right one. Yep, that's it. So we have made some changes to the nomination ballot. So we certainly have all of the different tiers within the categories, but the change we've made is that instead of having to fill out each of the buckets by subscriber numbers, we've just made it a pick list. So you'll see all of the different categories, best comic book show, best entertaining or informative content. And basically all you need to do is select that one, select the category, and then write in your answer. So I'll use my channel as an example, best live stream. Saturday morning comics is the live stream that I do. And we'll put in Brian LCS. Now, again, remember, don't vote for me. I'm not eligible for the awards. I appreciate the support. I have had nominations over the years, and I really do appreciate that, but it wouldn't be fair for me to be part of it. So I'll use myself as the example. But instead of having to do the homework of, well, how many subs is Brian LCS and what category does he fall into? If you have somebody who's the best live stream and you don't know, you think their channel is the best live stream, and you don't have you don't have to go do the research on the sub numbers. We'll handle that on the back end. Once we have tallied all of the best live streams, we'll put them in the right tier they should be in. But the idea behind this is to help streamline the nomination period, where you don't have to do all this homework of figuring out how many subs does every channel have. And so you'll have all the other categories here, and you'll have the opportunity, if you want, all you have to do is enter a single nomination and you can submit your ballot. Or if you want, you can, submit for every single category. Like I said, the only difference is that you'll have this pick list and you'll select what it is. And you could nominate multiple live streams if you think you have, some of your favorite live streams fall in different subscriber buckets, you can pick them from there. So hopefully this will streamline the nomination. Like I said, the idea is to just try to avoid people having to do so much homework and figuring out what sub numbers go with what channels, things like that. So and you can nominate up several different categories, basically all of the categories. So you can fill out the entire nomination ballot, or the only requirement to submit it would be to at least vote for one category. So you can vote for one, or somewhere in between, or up to 16 of the different categories. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to send this to a few different people as a preview in the community, just to make sure that it makes sense. But hopefully, the idea of pick list, and then you just write in the name of the channel, and certainly the more information you can provide here, because there are some channels that have multiple live streams. Maybe they do 2 or 3 weekly live streams. If you want to highlight a specific live stream, put their channel name as well as the name of the live stream or of their show. That would make life easier for me on the back end when we tally the votes. So just taking a look. Everybody's saying good evening. Hello to everybody. Manny's here. E-Man is here. Appreciate you guys hanging out and checking this out. So that hopefully that makes sense from a nomination ballot standpoint. And then, once we get past the nominations and move on to finalists, the finalist voting won't change. We'll have the top 5 nomination getters in each of the categories will become the finalists, and it will be a multiple choice, selection for picking the winners. I think that is about it. That's what I wanted to cover tonight. But certainly, if there's any questions, pretty standard. From previous years, we tweaked some of the categories, and we switched up the nomination ballot to hopefully make it easier on people nominating, so that we don't cause them to have, like I said, really have to do a lot of homework. They can just come in, pick their favorite channels, and be done with the nomination ballot. So, and CBC Awards, remember, it's cbcawards.org. cbcawards.com. This year, the cbcawards.org website will be decommissioned in the near future, actually in the next couple days. So let me just share that again so you guys can see it. So cbcawards.com will have all the information. And this will where once nominations open on July 4th, this is where you'll come to link to the nomination ballot. Yeah, I think that's it. And like I said, recognize our 2026 sponsors so far. Links are on the website as well in the description of the video, so definitely go check them out. Good. Yes, JSS, thank you. Let me know if there are any questions tonight, or you can reach out to me on Instagram, the CBC Awards Instagram. There is a contact link at the top of the page here. You can't see it. It's above the logo, but there's a contact button on the CBC Awards website, or you can just email me, comicbookcommunityawards@gmail.com. It's right there on the screen. You can email me directly with any questions, concerns, or feedback to help or clarify if you have any questions. But hopefully, this goes. It makes sense, and I was joking. Cliff on Comics said, "Hey, let the complaining begin." But hopefully, we've captured a good amount of feedback from the community over the past year, and kind of put that forward in the awards. The idea is we want to try to make it the best community event that we can, and definitely want to have the support from the community, but also have the community input. So, I think that's all we got. Yes, that's the best part. That's the best part for me, seeing the nominations start to come in and see new channels that I'm not aware of, that weren't on my radar, and that we can share with the community, so others can get in front of them and hopefully help their channel grow as well. So, but yeah, that's what we got for you tonight. Like I said, if you're catching the replay and have any questions, certainly reach out. Once, like I said, we'll shut down, we'll go update the website with all of the details as well. So that's an easy way to go check it out instead of watching the full video if you'd like to do that. So, appreciate everybody being here. Again, appreciate the support. This is year 6 of the awards. We've always had great support from the community. from nominations to voting, finalist voting, to donations, to sponsorship. Obviously could not do a community event like this without the community, right? Without the big support of the community. So, but yeah, that's what I got for you tonight. We'll be live in 2 weeks to 15 days. July 4th, we kick off the nominations. So, get your thinking caps on. Start thinking about who you'd like to get nominated in the different categories. And then, like I said, the biggest thing you can do to support the awards is to just help spread the word. Get it out there. Drop it. Share it on Instagram. Mention it in a video or live stream, and just help spread the word. Yeah, I mean, we have always supported C3. I mean, myself personally, right? I've been involved with C3 since the donated in year 1 and have been supporting in year 2. So, and being part of the weekend event for C3. So, but yeah, that's certainly, we try to I guess the tricky part with fundraisers and things like that is that we want to try to avoid any controversy with an award show and charity, right? So, but I can certainly just spend some time with Mark and DJ and the C3 crew at HeroesCon. So you can certainly highlight those guys as well. So, but yeah, that's what I got for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Any questions, please let me know. Find me Instagram, email, contact page on the website, cbcawards.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon, and we'll have regular updates. Once we get into the nomination period, we'll be doing some periodic updates, providing a nomination list of all the channels that have been nominated so far. So just the beginning of the official kickoff of the 2026 Comic Book Community Awards. So thanks so much. We'll see you soon.